Hello, good afternoon, class. My name is Dr. Patrick Jules, and I am your instructor for this class, the Gospels. And I just want to welcome all of you who are part of the UFTL family, and also either you're taking a new graduate course, you're a new time student, or you've been here before. I just want to welcome you all. I am the chair of the religious department, and you're going to be seeing me and having more classes with me and other professors and the time being that you'll be here at UFTL. Well, basically, this is the first week of class, and this is the week to introduce each other, to welcome each other to the class. By the way, Happy New Year to all of you, and may God bless your new year, with blessings and prosperity and love and everything that you do throughout 2020. As I was saying before, this is REL, THE, the gospel book class. And basically, I'm just going to go over this class with you in the next few minutes, giving you a lot of information of what this class is about. This is a graduate level course compared to undergraduate work. It is going to require a little bit more writing, maybe less exams, but you do have quizzes and exams in your class. So just to start off, I just want to go over some things with you. As you noticed yesterday and Monday, I posted discussions, and you see I posted bulletins. And every Monday, I'm going to post instructions for assignments for the week. And I'm also going to be posting other important information, such as how to write certain papers, APA format, any special announcements that I might have. I'm going to post this on here. Okay. This is REL 621. I kept saying THE, but you're going to see me post this on here frequently. So please always check the posts. Now, I understand that when I make the bulletin post, it also goes directly to your email or your phone. So you're always going to be in contact with me. Being an online class, it's important that we always maintain communication. If you have any questions or any concerns, you can always stop by the office. I know some of you have already. Or you can email me at um, pjules@uftl.edu. Um, Whenever a student emails me, I try to respond back within 24 hours, so please do so, and so forth. But let's go over some stuff today. As I said, this is the bulletin. I just want to review the syllabus, which basically is a guideline for what we're doing in the course, and I've uploaded it. And you also supposed to acknowledge that you've read it. Some of you have done that already. No, thank you for doing that. On the screen, you're going to see that I posted syllabus on here, and this course is 8 weeks. As it says, January 6th to February 28th. But we're going to be engaging in this class for 8 weeks, so it is fast paced. So you want to get to it and get the assignments and stuff. I posted here the textbook information, and this is the book for the class. It's called The Gospels, second edition by Fortress Press. And you can purchase this book at Amazon, $30, $40. Very good book to really engage in. And we're going to be doing a lot of discussion stuff from the book. Concerning the class, the grading down here is the grading scale for grades. You see an A is 90 to 100, the A, and going so forth. So just want to understand. I want to highlight again the incomplete grade, because some students sometimes have emergencies and sickness and tragedies. Some students sometimes request an I, incomplete grade, at the end of the semester for something. And basically, in yellow highlight here, it specifies how a student can get an incomplete. Okay, so it's very important that you see these three things right here. In order for a student to get an I or incomplete, they must have completed 70% of their work. Okay, so if you come to me, Dr. Jules, I need to get an I because this. Okay, 70% of your work. That means the majority of your work needs to be done. In order to get the incomplete, you might have a research paper or a final exam that you might need more time in. That's what I mean. But you have to have discussions and quizzes and all these other pre-existing assignments in. Second, you have to have a C or higher. Okay, if a student has a D, F, there's no way I'm going to give you incomplete. You need documentation for unforeseen circumstances, such as doctor's note or letter or something that shows there's been some type of issue. So we could document that in your academic files. It says down here, incomplete grade requests are submitted to the instructor for review. That means that in order to get an incomplete, you have to email the professor, whether it's I or any other professor. You email us first. Don't assume that if you're going to get an incomplete, you can email after the term is over. That's a no-no. So you have to email the professor first to get approval, okay? Faculty must approve requests at their discretion, and students meet the criteria listed above, okay? Basically, if you do get an I, you're allowed to get an I for the class. You have 14 days, 14 days in the following semester to complete all work. So that means that if you get an incomplete for, let's say this is the term 8 class and it finishes on the 28th of February, you have 14 days during term B to complete the work. Or if the class finishes on April 24th, you have to get the work in 14 days after the summer term starts, okay? So just be very specific about that. Going down here is grading and assignments. You see discussion questions. You're going to have discussion questions every week. And that's a big component of how we do online. Basically, you're reading the text and you're reading resources and you're putting information to your discussion posts. So that's 200 points for overall 6 discussions because we have a week that's midterm and final. So you're going to have 6 discussions for the 8-week course. Assignments are 100 points. That means whatever assignments that I might ask you to do, it's 100 points towards your grade. There's going to be quizzes. Basically, it's 400 points for the quizzes. The quizzes are going to cover notes. It's going to cover whatever the material. So whatever you see me put in the lesson tab, read it. Okay. I don't put it there for no reason, but read whatever I put up. Watch whatever videos because you're going to have quizzes every week. There's going to be a research paper for the course, and I believe in the end of this syllabus, I'll put a research. The research is worth 200 points. And folks, the research is at, for graduate courses about 10 pages, okay, 10 to 12 pages, and you're going to be writing a paper on one of the 4 books of the gospel. And basically, you're going to pick from either Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you're going to pick a specific issue, okay, that you will do your research on. So if I could say anything about research starting now, when do you begin the research paper? Now, okay? Because with the time being, you want to start getting it. So this is one of the reasons why if you want to meet with me and email me about research, something that you're interested in, the research could cover something in the book of Matthew, the people, the culture, time frames, miracles in one of the books, the birth of Jesus Christ, the genealogy of the family of Jesus, the line of David, the line of Adam from one of the Gospels. It can cover the audience. Okay, so maybe you might want to talk about the audiences and from one of the books. What I mean by audience, each book was written to a specific audience. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John each had specific groups of people it was written towards, and we're going to go into that later on. Following the research paper, you see a midterm and final exam, which is going to come from the chapters in the book. So that's why you have to get engaged in reading the book. Moving along, my attendance policy here for late work. Okay, if you're late in turning in assignments for any reason, you do need to email me first if you're going to miss an assignment. I do encourage you to really follow the due dates. Okay, if you're late 1 day, 10% deduction. 2 days, 20%, so forth. The longer it takes you, and after 6 days, there's basically nothing that we can grade. So it's very important that you really get into it, get the assignments in. Your discussions, basically, according to this document, I know somebody asked me earlier about this. Your discussion is 400 words. This week was a light week, and it's okay. But once you get your textbook starting next week, your first initial post has to be 400 words. And by that class, your discussion post is 400 words from the chapter, the question that I'm posting. And basically, when you're doing a discussion post, you're going to use the textbook. And you're going to use at least 2 other academic journals or books to support what you're saying. As graduate students, you're going to be producing a discussion based on your words. Basically, 400 words, about two good paragraphs, okay? Answering the question, discussing it, dissecting, giving a critique of it, analysis of it, but it has to be in your words. Now, when you do a discussion, you're going to either quote something from the book, or you could quote or paraphrase something from a journal or another textbook. You're going to use APA format. And at the end of the sentence, you're going to put the parentheses, author, which is Jones, comma, 2014. If it's quoting full quote, comma, page 55, and parentheses. If you're gonna, you could start a sentence by saying, according to Jones, parenthesis, 2014, okay? And you write blah, 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 what Jones says. And at the end of the paragraph, sentence, if it's a direct quote, you put, before you put the period, parentheses, P for page 55, parentheses, period. But if it's just a paraphrase and you're saying according by in the beginning, you just put the author, parentheses, and date, okay? After you do your first initial post, you're going to respond to two other students, okay? That means if there's one student in the class and if there's two students and you're the other one, so you respond to one student. If there's three students in the class, you're one and two other students, you're going to reply to each of the different students in the class, okay? So there's two additional posts for two different students. It's just it's only you and another student, that's two students, that means you're just replying one to one student, okay? So basically, if you're doing a reply to a post to another student, you're commenting, you're saying if you're agreeing, you're giving a suggestion, so forth, and that's 200 words. Again, this is what I have here on the syllabus. So if one of you asked me earlier and I said something else, well, let's go by what's on this document right here, all right? Your first initial post is always due on Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. And the second post on another student is due by Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Okay, so it's very important that you do this so I can grade them on Monday. And always, if you do your Wednesday posts, I always try to reply to your post by Thursday or Friday to give you some feedback and comments. And I might even put questions there for you to do further research. That means those are things that you're going to be doing throughout the week, to respond to whatever questions that I might have. All right. For your research, if there's any research papers, we're using APA's formatting, and basically that has to do with how we cite papers. I encourage you to get a PDF copy of APA. I might have it on here in Popley. Go to the library, ask Mr. Gregory. Whatever papers you're doing, I'm looking at title page, abstract, table of contents, all that stuff has to be on the paper properly with the right inching and formatting. Okay, so please see the librarian about that. You have to have a reference page at the end of the paper with all your resources in proper format. Okay, I encourage you to do something. When you're doing a research paper, always do the reference page first. Get all your references together, put them on the reference page so you don't have to worry about it again. Just do the good format, and then you can just start working on your paper. All right. Down below, we see our weekly plan, and basically it covers the chapters that you're reading. I know most of you are ordering your book right now, so that's why I have introduction, which is page 1, and then next week we're going to have chapter 2. I'm going to have chapter 1 next week. Okay, so this class is going to move by fast. Finally, there's about 6 chapters in this book because there's 4 books in the New Testament called the Gospels. Okay, so these chapters are a few pages long. Okay, so don't assume that it's going to be easy. All right. Your research paper is due on week 8. Please see this on here. It's due on week 8. So it's very important that you know that. That's why I encourage you to start working on it now. By the end of this weekend, you should have an idea of what you want. If not, email Dr. Jules, and I will help you to see basically whatever you're interested in knowing about the Gospels or one of the books. You can do a compare, contrast, to focus on one book, but remember it's 10 to 12 pages. okay? And the 10 to 12 pages does not include the reference page, does not include the title page or the table of contents or abstract. The 10 pages is actually your research and writing, okay, on what you're talking about. So this is graduate work. All right, class. Every week I post up lessons, as you see here. Each week there's a lesson for the week. And if you go to week 1 for the week, you're going to see I posted a PowerPoint. Basically, this covers what we're studying for the week 1. And this is the introduction to the 4 stories of the gospel. Let me just take a few minutes here to talk about this for a minute. In the introduction, we are looking to identify what the 4 gospels are. The 4 gospels includes Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And many of us assume because the book of Matthew's first, you're going to discover that some of these books are in order in the Bible, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were written in that order, or the writers came about writing them in that order, okay? So those who produced the Bible, who compiled the Bible together, centuries ago, placed the Old Testament, New Testament in a particular way for a reason, okay? But it doesn't mean that the Matthew was first or John was last. And one of the things you're going to see as you read the textbook, there are things in each of the 4 gospels that are different, okay? The first PowerPoint slide talks about the 4 gospels. The textbook is about the first 4 books of the New Testament. That's what this class is all about. We're not going into Ephesians or Philippines or Revelation. We're about the 4 gospels, and the 4 gospels cover the life of Jesus Christ. It covers the life of Jesus, okay, from his birth, his time of growing up, being a young man, a teenager, his ministry, his baptism, his trials, resurrection, and everything that happened before he gave commands before he went up to heaven. Okay, that's what the 4 gospels is all about. Okay, and you're going to be fascinated, enjoy reading it if you haven't really studied it. As we know, the Bible contains 66 books. Okay, that's what the Bible contains from the Old Testament to the New Testament. And one of the things you're going to discover when you read the book of Isaiah and the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah was cited in the Old Testament, the Segnog. And basically, the book of Isaiah is a smaller version of the Bible. If you really look at the book of Isaiah, I believe there's 66 chapters in there, which could kind of be like 66 of the whole Bible. All right. But you're going to see that those of you who take a survey course will, okay, there's a 400-year gap between the last book in the Old Testament to the first book in the New Testament. 400 years. So that means that the Bible was not written in the time that we all expect, as in ABC or as in 1928 to 1930. Okay, there's a lot of gaps in the Bible. There's a lot of questions about the Bible. That's why we as believers, we believe in the Bible by faith. But there are some things as Bible students you're going to be reading that are going to cause questions. And the only way you can really respond to them is by your faith in God. The New Testament contains 27 books in the New Testament, okay? There are 27 books in the New Testament, and those books cover from the book of Matthew to the book of Revelation. And each of those books have a specific audience, author, purpose, okay, message, okay? So they were not just written, they didn't just throw those books in the Bible, but they have specific messages. Just briefly, Philippines, Ephesians, Galatians, Timothy, Titus, all those books were church books where the Apostle Paul wrote, okay, to the church, okay, to help in ministry, okay? So that's what those books are for. So when we look at the book of Acts, we're going to see the foundation of the church, okay? But when we look at the book of Revelation, we see the last things that are supposed to occur before the coming of Christ. But the 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, focus on Jesus. And the Apostle Paul has nothing to do with the 4 Gospels, okay? a focus on Jesus. All right. The authors of the book, as I said, each book has a different author. It was different by different writers. And the key thing is that the New Testament was written in Greek and the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Okay. That's why if you're a graduate student, you're wondering, why do I have to take Hebrew or Greek for the program? Because our graduate students, have to take some type of language course. Whether you're in this university or you went to another Bible seminary, they would have required you to take Hebrew or Greek. Okay. So basically, the reason why you study Greek or Hebrew is to really understand the key words and the transitions and the terminology used, because the Bible was not written in English. It was translated in English. So by that saying is that the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and we still have Hebrew Bibles that you could purchase. And then they translate the Hebrew to the English. Now the problem is that some of the words that you read in English, if you go back to the Hebrew Bible for the Old Testament, some of them have the same meaning, but some of them do not. And this is the key thing for preachers and teachers to know as you're preaching the word of God. For example, the word love, which means agape, okay? There are different meanings for that, okay? When you look at the Old Testament, New Testament, and our modern society, okay? Same thing with New Testament. The New Testament was translated from Greek, right? So the author took the Greek and knew enough English to be able to translate into the English. And this is the reason why, folks, we have the King James Version, which is the earliest version of the Bible. Now we have the New King James. We have the NIV, New International Version, the NAS, the New American Standard. We have the ESV. We have the Holman Bible. We have the New Living Translation. We have the Message Bible. We have all these Bibles written in different languages to different people all around the world. Okay. Again, these people who translated from one Bible to the next, they had to understand the key words to translate them. Okay. So that's why when you're preaching, even if you don't speak Hebrew and Greek fluently, if you know the background of the words and the paraphrases and the translation of them, you'll be able to better interpret the Bible for somebody who has particular questions about the Bible. Okay. A lot of people are misinterpreting the Bible nowadays and saying things that are not accurate, but they're saying things based on their mindset and their interpretation. That's why, as a Bible scholar, it's important for you to know language. The other thing that we see here, the background of the writers are those who lived in the Roman Empire during the last half of the first century. Now, as the author says in the book, the words first century came about with Jesus' birth, okay? Before the Bible was written, there were people around, okay? There was a civilization that existed, and Jesus came about, he was born, they call that the first, second civilization. So these writers were part of the Roman Empire. Okay, they were living in that time. We talk about Galilee, we talk about Nazareth, we talk about Palestine, those type of areas. That's where Jesus came from. In case you are not aware, Jesus never came to the United States of America. That's a joke. He was never went to Canada or South America. The Bible existed more likely in the Middle East. And there's a lot of things we see that existed. Like you take countries like Turkey, you take countries like Iraq. If you really Google this stuff up, you'll find that a lot of these old cities we talk about in the Bible are part of that region, okay, and the Middle East. So when you kind of see something's going on in the Middle East, all these rumors of wars and stuff, those are biblical. Those are part of some biblical prophecies that we see there taking place. Going back to the author, Jesus was born during the beginning of the first century, okay, the birth of Jesus Christ. The four Gospels were written, the Gospel was written a generation or two after Jesus, but before Christianity fully developed. Understand this. The Bible was not written when Jesus was ministering. There was no Bible. There was no New Testament. but the Bible was written after Jesus departed and went up to heaven. Okay, so a generation or two. Understand what the author says here. It was not written, say Jesus died in 2000 or resurrected in 2018, and they write the Bible in 2020. No, a generation. That means 10, 20 years after Christ resurrected, the Bible was written. And that's where a lot of people are sometimes kind of confused. Okay, so here's the thing though. When Jesus chose the 12 disciples, one of the reasons why he chose 12 disciples was that he would have people who had an eyewitness account of his ministry. So that means that Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Matthew, tax collector, Peter, they were there when Jesus was doing ministry. So they were able to give a report of what occurred while Jesus was on earth. That was the purpose of the disciples, okay? That's why Jesus, when he went up to the mountain to pray, he told the men, hey, stay awake while I go to the mountain to pray. Why? Because he wanted them to see. He wanted them to give a report what's going to happen and what happened, okay? So that's why the Bible, one of the key things as we look and study, how did the writers formulate the New Testament? They had to make sure that one of the key things about putting the Bible together was the people who, and stories that were included in the Bible, were from an eyewitness account. Someone who was there, who saw, experienced the miracles, birth and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay? And that's what this is about. So that's why they say it was written a generation or two. Okay? So I believe a generation lasts about 30 to 33 years. So that means these people lived a bit longer after Christ's return, but they knew. Okay? They knew. Okay? Now, some of the disciples, they were there, right? Peter, or we would say Paul, the Apostle Paul, was not around when Jesus did ministry. He came in after. Paul became the founder of the church. So, but before Paul, there was other disciples who had to disciple Paul in order to do the work of the church, you know? So it's fascinating as I talk about this. The gospel world, folks, as we read the book, we're going to see some things about what happened in the gospel world, the world of civilization that existed in the time of the four gospels in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The gospel was written in a time period not related to our current world, lifestyles, or religious preferences. Now, that means that the Bible was written at a time where there was no YouTube or internet or cell phones or transportation or cars and all this stuff that we're blessed with, we have today. You know, they didn't have that at that time, okay? It was the earliest civilization, the beginning of the world. They didn't have all that kind of stuff. Of course, they had homes, but our modern day lifestyle is not the same. That's why one of the things about a Bible student, folks, is that the Bible student or the pastor's a theologian, and the pastor has to be able to interpret what the Bible is saying back then in order to teach the people what the Bible is saying back then and how it applies to our lives today as believers of Jesus Christ. So we got to be very careful sometimes as we read the Bible and we interpret it and we make it say things that it never said, okay? There are verses in the Bible and chapters in the Bible that has nothing to do with people living in the 21st century. But there's an application behind it, something that you can get from that text that will help you, okay? So it's very important to understand. It was written during a period where the Samaritans and the Sadducees, the Magi, and tax collectors existed. There were people in the biblical world that their lifestyles were considered wrong or good, whereas in today it might be wrong or good for us in our current lifestyle. For example, the tax profession, like everybody's getting ready for tax, getting their tax returns, everybody has their own tax man. But in the biblical world, if you were a tax collector, you were evil, you were wrong. You were the worst person to live on earth because you were robbed, you were taking money from people, Every year the people had to pay a census. They had to go give a census, and then they had to go pay taxes. That's another thing. Tax existed for a long time. People were paying taxes, taxes, property taxes, sales taxes. So all this stuff existed. It's not nothing new under the sun. Okay. But there are certain things or type of lifestyles that people had that were either good or bad. Okay. And so forth. Tax collectors were seen as evil, as I said. Also, lawyers in the biblical world were seen as biblical scholars. Okay. And that means that lawyer knew the law of the land, but they also knew the word of God. Now, I understand that many universities that were founded in the earliest time were founded on Christian principles. Most of these great universities, Yale, Princeton, Brown, this, that, they were Christian schools with Christian foundation, okay? So lawyers were there to interpret. Lawyers did not write new laws. Judges were there to interpret the law, not to formulate new laws. Not what we have today in our modern day world where the Supreme Court can make new laws. They were there to interpret the law, say what the law says. Okay. But our modern day times, our lawyers, our judges, and so forth, some of them are making new laws that to apply to our modern day living. Okay. This helps us to understand the people and events associated. All this stuff right here, where I talk about the people, the lawyer, the tax collector, it helps us to understand the issues that we see in the New Testament, Old Testament, especially the gospel books. Okay, what was the big deal about Jesus picking Matthew to be one of his disciples? What was the big issue about certain people who live a certain lifestyle being friendly with Jesus? Okay, why was it in John chapter 8, my favorite story? Okay, the men wanted to persecute the woman for her adulterous ways. Why did they talk about the Samaritan woman at the well? Okay, when Jesus asked her, "Where's your husband?" and so forth. Okay, all these things there's a certain application behind them. Every miracle and story and parable had a connection with the lifestyle of the people back then. But for us today, as believers, there's application. How does it apply to us today in the 21st century? One of my favorite quotes that I love to talk about is when Jesus taught us how to pray. Okay, Matthew chapter 6, where Jesus teaches how to pray. And one of the things he said in that prayer, he says, "Your kingdom come and your will be done." So Jesus taught us that we didn't have to recite big prayers and humble prayers and hallelujah prayers and dancing prayers, all these type of prayers that you see. He gave specific instructions how to pray. You pray that the kingdom of God would come upon your life, upon your surroundings. That means the kingdom from heaven come down to you as a blessing. And it says he prayed your will be done. We pray that the will of God be done in our lives. Instead of us praying for what we want, we pray for the will of God. What does he want for you and I in our lives, okay? As you continue with the slide, you're going to see the differences between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okay? Then my slide goes down to biblical archaeology. One of the things that we discover is that archaeology has to do with studying the time in the past where archaeologists, which are historians, they would go to the Middle East and dig up graves, study buildings and artifacts and people and bones and architecture and pictures and stuff to get a better understanding of the biblical world. Because see, currently the first Bible had to be located, and they have copies and manuscripts of the Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are different types of writings. The scrolls, as you know, the Bible was not written in a particular format that we see right now. So there are many Bible seminaries and very large schools that have copies of the earliest manuscripts. They have archaeologists in their universities and seminaries that travel back and forth, and they're studying. And they're studying the original text to see what did the Bible say, okay? Try to connect and stuff. And one of the things about this, folks, is that we have many people who study theology, study the Bible for two reasons. One, to profess their life as a Christian, or two, to show proof that Jesus didn't exist. Okay, that's why you have archaeologists, all these different type of scientists. Some of them they're sharing their gospel. Some of them are saying Jesus did not exist. That's why you have different type of movies and writings and stuff going on there. That's why in my slide you see, like the first picture I have here, it's a slide of archaeologists digging up something in the Middle East. Okay, this is the writing sample. Okay, you can see that the writing and the words was either written in Hebrew or Greek. Okay, so these archaeologists and historians, they study this to try to better understand the Bible, what the Bible says. This guy's studying a grave, basically digging up bones, okay, to better understand human life back then, and still going on. Basically, some of the things they discovered was Dead Sea Scrolls, okay? It's a scroll which had biblical manuscripts in it, 1947. Manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible, there's war scrolls. They study to get demographics of people in the different cities and states in the Middle East, okay? So that's what they get. They're moving along. We have the historical Jesus, and we're going to be looking at the historical Jesus in chapter 1 of your textbook. So today I just wanted to give you an overview of the PowerPoint, okay, on the life of Jesus Christ here, okay? So folks, that's about it. Just remember you have discussions to do. Discussion 1, I see one student did it. Introductions. And the introductions, go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, your life experiences, so forth, and why God has called you to UFTL. Then I have the acknowledgement of syllabus down there. Review it, read it, dissect it, remember it, and put a post saying that you acknowledge it, and we go from there. And do your best to get the book this week and start reading the introductions in chapter 1. And I'm going to post a video around next week, around this time, Wednesday or Thursday, to talk about, the lesson for the week. So every Monday, you're going to see me posting something. Every Sunday night, you get it done. Okay. Please look at the syllabus for your quiz. There will be a weekly quiz. So plan to take a quiz next week for introductions in chapter 1 for next week. So start getting ready. Do me a favor, email me what you would like to write about for your research paper. You can choose from the 4 books, and you could narrow down the topic into something specific you want to do and study. And the best thing you do is start looking at Bible books, and you could go to Google Scholar, and you type in the box specific subject, and also anything that you're getting. Journals and books have to be written the last 5 years, okay? The library also has a platform where you could research. You can look up journals, articles, about particular topics for any of your classes. See Mr. Gregory, the librarian, he'll give you more information. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you today, and I wish you the best throughout the semester. And let me just encourage you, focus on graduation. Everything else will work out. Just keep working. Don't give up. Yes, school is hard, but if you put the effort in just every day, day by day, you're doing something every day, you will make it. You will graduate, okay? Let me just say one last thing in case anybody might misinform you. The Master of Divinity is a 90 credit program. So realistically, it's about, really want to graduate in 4 years, 2 to 3 classes every semester. So just plan yourself wisely. If you're doing 2 classes every semester, some classes are 8 weeks, some of them are 16 weeks, really push for that. If you're just doing 1 class per semester, it's going to take you a bit longer, but you will make it, okay? If you just aim high and don't quit, as my signs say on the wall, don't quit and just focus on graduation. And I believe in 4 years, you'll be walking down that stage with your Master of Divinity and doing whatever God has for you to do. Enjoy your week. God bless. And if you have any questions, send me an email at pjules@uftl.edu. And may God bless you in all that you do this week. God bless, and we'll see you next week.